Albert Stevens went to a San Francisco hospital with stomach pain. On April 26, 1945, doctors told the 58-year-old house painter that he had terminal cancer. They said they wanted to try an experimental treatment. Then they injected him with plutonium. Stevens did not have terminal cancer. He had a benign stomach ulcer. The diagnosis was wrong. The injection was deliberate. He would live for another 20 years. He would never learn what the syringe contained. Much later, researchers calculated that Stevens had received about 64 sieverts of radiation over his lifetime. That remains the highest known radiation dose ever survived by a human being. His hospital code was Cal-1. That was the name the program gave him. Stevens was one of 18 Americans injected with plutonium between 1945 and 1947. The experiments took place at the University of California Hospital in San Francisco, Strong Memorial Hospital in Rochester, the University of Chicago, and the Oak Ridge facility in Tennessee. These were not secret rooms run by a lone doctor. The Manhattan Project authorized the work. Senior physicians managed it. Leading hospitals carried it out. The question was simple. What does plutonium do inside a human body? By 1945, American workers were handling plutonium at Hanford, Los Alamos, and other weapons sites. The material was needed for nuclear bombs, but doctors still lacked solid data on how the body absorbed it, where it went, and how long it stayed there. Plutonium was especially dangerous when inhaled or swallowed. The body could mistake it for other metals. It could settle in bone and remain there for years, sending out radiation close to living tissue. The Manhattan Project needed numbers. It got them from hospital patients who were never asked. The first recorded subject was Eb Cade, a 53-year-old black construction worker in Oak Ridge. On April 10, 1945, Cade was in hospital after a car accident. He had a broken pelvis and other injuries. His doctors gave him 4.7 micrograms of plutonium-239. They called him HP-12. The program later removed pieces of his bone and teeth. Cade wasn't told that either. The samples helped researchers track where plutonium settled in his body. He left Oak Ridge before the doctors finished their follow-up work. He died in 1953. 2 weeks after Cade's injection, Albert Stevens entered the University of California Hospital. His case looked different on paper. He had stomach pain, and doctors believed he was dying from cancer. That made him useful to the experiment. A patient expected to die could be given a dangerous substance with less chance of questions later. But the diagnosis failed. Stevens had an ulcer. It could have been treated. Instead, doctors injected him with a mixture of plutonium-238 and plutonium-239. The dose was small enough to measure in micrograms. The consequences were measured in decades. Across the country, other patients were given similar injections. A 4-year-old Australian boy named Simeon Shaw was treated at Strong Memorial Hospital in Rochester. He had bone cancer and had been brought to the United States for care. On May 5, 1945, doctors injected him with plutonium. He died in January 1946. The patients were not known by name in the experiment files. They appeared as codes such as HP-12, CAL-1, and CHI-1. Doctors collected urine and stool samples for months or years. The patients were often told they were receiving treatment. Some were told nothing. The records kept the patients at a distance. A code cannot ask why a dose was given. A code cannot refuse the next sample. A code cannot tell a family what happened inside a hospital room. But the doctors knew exactly what they were measuring. Injected doses ranged from 0.1 to 5 micrograms. Several went above the body limit that the Atomic Energy Commission later set for workers. The timing mattered. On July 16, 1945, the Trinity test lit the New Mexico desert. 3 weeks later, another plutonium bomb destroyed Nagasaki. Production plants now had to make and handle more of the metal. Officials feared what a spill, cut, or breath of dust might do to a worker. So they studied how fast plutonium left the body through urine and waste. They used the patients to build the tables that would guide the nuclear weapons program. The work was described as worker safety. The subjects received none of that protection. Even after the war ended, the injections continued. The last took place in July 1947. That same year, the Nuremberg Code set out a clear rule for tests on people. Voluntary consent was required. The new Atomic Energy Commission inherited the records. It did not tell the patients, it restricted the files. A 1947 memo from Dr. Stafford Warren, the Manhattan Project's chief medical officer, gives the reason. Warren warned that the experiments could bring lawsuits and damage public trust. The records, he wrote, could not survive public review. This was not a secret weapon design, it was evidence of what government doctors had done to sick people. And secrecy worked. Albert Stevens died in 1966. For 20 years, plutonium remained inside his body. He never knew why doctors kept asking for samples. After his death, researchers had his remains dug up. Parts of his body were then used for more radiation study without his family's knowledge. Eb Cade died in 1953. Simeon Shaw died before his 5th birthday. Most of the 18 died without learning what had entered their blood. Their names remained hidden behind letters and numbers. Then a reporter found a footnote. In the early 1980s, Eileen Wellsome of the Albuquerque Tribune saw a brief reference to people injected with plutonium. She began filing Freedom of Information Act requests. The search took about a decade. She had codes, dates, and hospital files. But who was Cal 1? Who was HP 12? Turning those codes back into people meant tracing old medical records, death papers, and family histories. In November 1993, Wellsome published a 3-part report called The Plutonium Experiment. It named 5 subjects: Eb Cade, Albert Stevens, Simeon Shaw, Elmer Allen, and John Musso. The report broke 40 years of silence. Energy Secretary Hazel O'Leary then ordered records opened. Between 1993 and 1995, the Department of Energy released about 1.6 million pages on human radiation tests. President Bill Clinton formed an inquiry in January 1994. Bioethicist Ruth Faden led it. The group examined the plutonium injections and many other government radiation tests. Its final report came out in October 1995. It confirmed 18 injection subjects. It found that doctors had broken consent rules that existed even in the 1940s. It also found that fear of blame and lawsuits helped drive the secrecy. On October 3rd, Clinton gave a formal apology at the White House. Elmer Allen was there. Doctors had injected him in 1947. They later removed his leg and used tissue from it in follow-up research. Nearly half a century passed before the government told him that what happened had been wrong. Wellsome won the 1994 Pulitzer Prize. Her work restored 5 names, but several subjects remained known, mainly by program codes. Albert Stevens had entered a hospital expecting care. Doctors gave him plutonium because they thought he would die soon. When that diagnosis proved false, they still did not tell him. He lived another 20 years, carrying about 64 sieverts in his body, while his medical file called him Cal 1.